I'm more like a conservative person in terms of gear and in terms of basic setup. In my studio there is a lot of analog, but I don't mind to use digital solution. For example, when I do bass line, I never start from an analog synth. I use the OBXD, which is a free plugin, and there are some preset banks just of bass line, and you find amazing sounding bass line. And I do always the first raw bassline idea with it, and I most of the time keep it, the VST sound, integrating with analog synthesize to give a little bit more the warmth. But sometimes the analog synthesizer cannot give the movement or the attack or the decay that soft synthesizer can affect in your sound. Key instruments for my sound are the Krumar Beat 99, which is a vintage analog synth from Italy, have a signature sound for me. So, and also the texture and the timbric and the presets that have inside, they are kind of unique in a way that you don't hear much in music productions. Another synth I really like and is the Poly 61. The Poly 61 gives to my production also these 80s in between analog and digital feeling and warmth. I use quite a lot also the Prophet 6. Is also very powerful synthesizer. Here you can trigger and modulate all the sounds and create your own sound design, and I use it a lot for pads especially and synth sounds. Another nice piece of gear that I like to mention is the Wave Station, which I have the rack version. The Wave Station helps a lot in terms of layering of soundscape and sometimes some drone sound or some layer of pads. It really gives this digital harmony and freshness sometimes to the tracks that with other synths you can get. What I really like as a versatile and ready-to-use synth is the Matrix 1000. The Matrix 1000 for me is like a key piece of gear in my studio because of its versatility and the fact that I can trigger the sounds, make it very powerful analog synthesizer, even if it's very simple design like a box. I layer a lot. Bassline most of the time is never only one synth. It can be one plugin mixed with an analog synth. The analog synth to give the warmth and the plugin to give more the attack, for example. And I do it also with drums, especially with kick drum and snare. I'm not the kind of producer that use a specific drum machine sounds for the tracks, but I like to mix sample that I have in my sample database. I can end up also with 3 layers of kicks or 4 or 5 layers of snare, and especially with snare when I like moving that the snare is not always sounding the same, so it moves around in the track. So I layer pieces of snares that have different reverbs or different frequencies and make the snare in the track sounds more organic and floating than only one snare all the time, the same. I use Ableton as a main sequencing. I record everything on Ableton through the mixer. All the analog synths are connected independently into the mixer. The rack synthesizer, they go through the patch bay, and I control it from there through my audio card and the MIDI port, and I'm able like this to control everything through Ableton. And at the moment I'm trying to integrate it in my setup the Arturia case step. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to integrate it inside my setup, because for what I saw is a very good instrument to sequence and arpeggiator and chord generator, and for me this can be the next step. What I do normally is do very long recording. Afterwards, I don't edit at the moment, but I just find on the fly a nice suitable part of it to find the next sound and the next layer. So I rarely play instruments together. I'm just going one synth after the other, trying to find the best combination of sounds. I end up most of the time with a lot of sounds and a lot of recording. And then when I recognize that I have enough recording, enough sketch or clips, I will start the editing and find out sounds that works together. I mostly use the Ableton ones. I find it very reliable and easy to use. Also, sometimes I use quite a lot of soft synths. Using Ableton effect helps a lot with the GPU of my computer. I'm more like a conservative person in terms of gear and in terms of basic setup. So also my speakers, they are focal, they are not fancy, they are pretty affordable, but at some point I got the chance to have it, and I just stick with it because now I know exactly how it sounds, and for me it's very important to have these kind of references. I really like the fact that sometimes you can't recognize if a track is made in the modern days or in the middle 2000s or in the 80s, as it gives more effect of timeless for your a timeless effect for your music.